Oh, right.
Sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. Right. Okay. It is 10 o'clock. So I will welcome you all to Neath Talbot's Planning Committee meeting on the 8th of June 2021. It's 10 a.m. and we are conducting this meeting via the Teams online protocol. That means that you would like to, if I could ask you to turn your phones onto silent, use your electronic hand or the chat function if you wish to speak, but don't use the chat function for anything other than reporting technical difficulties. Okay, I'd like to, before I go any further with the agenda, I'd like to welcome our newest member of the Planning Committee, Councillor Stephanie Lynch. My very best welcome to you. I hope that it'll be a long association with planning. And also I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Chris Jones, who has left the Planning Committee for his time and attention while he was on it. So my thanks to one and welcome to another. Also welcome to the press who are in the meeting this morning. So with that said, I'll go to part one, item 1, declarations of interest. If members could declare if they have any interests. Tammy, do you see anything?
I don't see any, Chair, but following this, would you like me to do a roll call for you?
Oh, dear me. I do apologise, missed the step. Yes, of course, of course.
Thank you, Chair. So just to confirm, there are no declarations, Chair.
No, I'll do that again anyway.
Okay, excellent. So we'll go through a roll call now. We have yourself, Chair, Councillor Suzanne Paterson, present.
Present, yes. Thank you.
Vice Chair, Councillor Sean Percy.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillors Dennis Keogh.
Present.
Ros Davis.
Presennol, present.
Thank you. Steve Hunt.
I'm here, Tammy.
Thank you. Arwyn Woolcock.
Yes, present, Chair, and just to confirm, no declarations of interest.
Lovely, okay.
Thank you. Mark Prothero.
Present, thanks, Tammy.
Thank you. Chris Williams.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. And Stephanie Lynch.
Present.
Thank you. We have apologies from Councillor Suzanne Renkers and Councillor Rydian Maizan and the LDP Cabinet Member, Councillor Annette Wingrave.
Okay.
Then we have Planning Officer Steve Ball.
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Morning. Russell Borthwick.
Present, morning.
Morning. Highways Officer Justin Griffiths. Justin?
I can see him, Tammy.
Okay, he's on mute, but he is here. Legal Officers Gavin White.
Present, Tammy.
Thank you. And Rebecca McGregor.
Present. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Thank you. Myself, Tammy Davis, the Democratic Services Officer. And we have Hannah Neary representing Wales Online. Have I missed anybody off the roll call?
No.
No, there we are, Chair. That's the roll call complete.
Tammy, could you just make sure that Justin can hear us?
Yeah, Justin, can you hear us?
I think he's frozen unless he's sitting.
I think he's frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you just keep an eye on that then and try and get him back into the meeting for us?
Yeah, he's showing us in the meeting, Chair. So
okay.
Yeah, okay. We keep an eye on him.
As long as he can follow what's going on. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay then. So I did do declarations of interest at the inappropriate time, but I will ask for it now. Do any members have any interest to declare? No, I see shaking heads. Okay, we'll proceed then. To item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. These can be found on pages 5 to 8. May I ask somebody to propose they are a true record?
I move, Chair.
Thank you. Seconded?
Second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move then to requests for site visits. I presume that there has been none because I would have been told by now, I think. Yeah. Anybody at the meeting wishing to ask for a site visit? No. Okay. There we are then. So we only have a very short agenda today. It's the one item. So that's
Chair.
item. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. I know it's my first meeting.
Oh, no problem, Stephanie.
I'm thinking maybe I should have declared an interest because it regards my boss. Do I need to declare an interest for that?
Okay, Beck, or Gavin, should Councillor Lynch declare an interest because she actually works for David Rees MS?
Yes, I would encourage her to declare an interest. Tammy can obviously provide her with the relevant forms.
Is it prejudicial?
I think that's a matter for Councillor Lynch to be honest, whether she feels that it would be better for her not to be involved because she may have already information about the application from her work position. If that's the case, then I would encourage you not to be part of the item. If you don't know anything about the application prior to this and it's purely just because of your employment, then that's a different matter and you could be involved. So it depends how much you are aware of, if I'm honest, Councillor Lynch.
To be honest, I've just realised it's my boss, so I've got no idea that it was David. So he's not, he's not mentioned it to me at all.
Okay, so Tammy, if you'd send the form to Councillor Lynch for declaring a personal interest.
Yes, Chair.
But are you saying, Councillor Lynch, that you wouldn't have a prejudicial interest in this?
No, not at all.
All right, then we'll proceed. Thank you for alerting me to that. I would suggest to you that if you're in any doubt, you're a brand new member, so just ring legal services beforehand and just get the full information from them before the next meeting, if it occurs. Okay, then.
Excuse me, sorry, Chair. I lost signal and I've just joined back in.
Yeah,
just in Griffiths, I raised. My apologies for that.
No, we did notice, and I did ask if somebody could keep an eye out to see what was happening with you.
Thank you, Chair.
we haven't even gone on to the first item yet, so that's fine. Thank you. Okay, item 4 is application P. Just enlarge this a bit for my eyesight. 2021. 0444, it's 5 Park Road, Carmarthen, Port Talbot. It's on pages 9 to 20 in your bundle, and you should have received a presentation from Mr. Ball this morning. He did apologise at the start of the meeting for the lateness of that presentation, but does anybody not receive that? No, I can't see any indications. Okay, then we'll go ahead. Mr. Ball, this is recommended for approval. Could you take the committee through the application, please?
Of course, Chair. You've already expressed my apologies, but I would normally just, certainly for Councillor Lynch's preference, I would normally provide the presentation the day before, but for logistical reasons, shall we call them, I wasn't able to do that on this, but I will go through the presentation anyway as normal. Can you see the screen, Chair?
Yes, I can, yes.
Excellent, right. So this is an application, as you said, for application P 2021/0444. It's an application for land at 5 Park Row in Carmarthen, and it is a proposal, a full application for a 4-bedroom detached dwelling together with parking within the grounds of number 5 Park Row. As the report indicates, and as we've just been referring to, it is brought before Planning Committee for 2 reasons, really. One is about transparency and public interest, because there's been different objections relating to historic issues in the area, and also for transparency, the applicant, Marie Rees, is the wife of David Rees MS, and it was felt appropriate to place that in the report so members are aware of that.
Yep.
The application site itself is shown on the slide in front of you, so the site location plan at the top left. So as members will be aware, the red line is the application site boundary, the blue line is land in the ownership of the applicant. So number 5, the whole of that site is currently their land, and they're proposing to build a dwelling on the land on the western side of that site, as identified in red on the plan there.
Okay.
It is a full application. The aerial photos, I've got 2 different aerial photos just to show you which are of relevance. This is a Google Earth image from a couple of years or a few years ago, which indicates the site. So this in the centre is number 5, and this is their existing curtilage. I show this primarily because it's a really good photo that shows the relationship with properties, for example, Tyrcannel to the west, and Park Row itself, and Hale Mabon, the main road through in front of the site. But it's also, the next one is actually an up-to-date photo, which is from 2020. We've only recently been provided with the 2020 site photos, or the aerial photos, which actually indicate the block of flats that was constructed to the south of this site. This is the application site in the centre, and this is a block of flats which, as you can see, are not shown on the earlier drawing. And that's of relevance partly because there are sections that show relationship with the new proposal to this property, but also because for those of you who were on planning committee a number of years ago, the application for this site actually came before planning committee, primarily because of the local concerns related to the site, related to issues to do with contamination and subsidence and coal mining legacy, effectively. So members who are on it will remember that those issues were addressed and considered in that report. And similar issues have been raised in this, but as the report has emphasised, we're content that there are no unacceptable issues arising from those, but I will go into that in detail. So the site location plan in front of you shows where the proposed 4-bed dwelling will be located on the site. So it is at an angle. So as again, on the left hand side, you've got Tyrcannel properties, and then you've got the existing property in Park Row, and then the existing flats are just shown on the bottom. The blue line is the corner of the flats at the bottom, are just shown on the aerial. It's a relatively modern style of property, but it's quite a nice, tasteful style of property, which the dimensions are shown on the report on the first page of the report. It is got a gable-ended ridge roof. It's got a glazed feature gable to the front elevation, and generally it's off-white rendered walls, grey roof tiles, etc. So the design of the property is considered to be wholly acceptable and generally in accordance with the character of the area. I won't go into the representation, but members will have noted that there are a number of matters being raised within 4 representations locally. These relate to issues, more historical issues, as I talked about, but also a few issues related to this particular application, more relating to the relationship of the proposal to adjoining properties, which are addressed within the report. The report goes into the policies against which we've assessed it, obviously, in terms of the development plan, which just to re-emphasise, following the training we had a couple of months back, the development plan comprises the Future Wales, the national plan, and our local development plan. That is now the development plan. But for the purpose of this application, although the general placemaking principles within Future Wales and Plan Policy Wales have been considered, obviously, that the main issues relate to the local development plan policies, of the need to ensure that this proposal has no unacceptable impacts, primarily because, as the report says, the principle of development of a residential property in a residential area within a settlement boundary is acceptable, provided there are no unacceptable impacts arising from it. The first thing that's considered in that regard about principle is issues of density, and the report advises that it's been considered against policy BE1, which relates to the requirement to have an acceptable density, and having regard to this particular site and its locality, although it's a relatively small density, it is because of the constraints within the site and the relationship properties where consider that density would be acceptable in this instance. In terms of visual amenity, as I just said, the property on the screen, it's a reasonably good quality property. It's not considered to have any particular impact on the character and appearance of the surrounding area street scene, notably because it's set back off the street behind the main properties and would reflect and respect those within the locality. I've just put an artist impression in that respect, a concept sketch, just to give an idea. It's not the final example, but it's an indication of the kind of property that we're talking about. In terms of residential amenity, the report goes into details and considers the relationship with nearby properties, including those the flats we talked about to side, and also those on Tyrcannel. Generally speaking, the separation distances and relationship of windows and the property to each of the properties on either both to the west and to the south of the property, and indeed to the existing property, are considered to be acceptable. There are 2 section drawings within the presentation that identify how the property will sit within the site. The first one just indicates there's not a significant change in levels to actually site the dwelling. And the second one is particularly of note because it demonstrates the relationship between the proposed new dwelling and the existing self-contained flats on Hale Mabon, which demonstrates both in terms of, yes, there's a change in levels between them, which is in the region of 3.3 meters or so, but given the relationship, given the boundary details and the orientation of the properties, there's not considered to be unacceptable impacts from overlooking on that property. And in terms of just going back to the design of the property, you'll see on the rear elevation there are 3 roof lights shown, which are a relatively low level. Ultimately, we're generally satisfied there'd be no unacceptable impact from those, but there is a condition that refers to those roof lights being positioned higher than they're shown to prevent any unacceptable overlooking, particularly if you see the elevation here, that they'll be looking towards the properties on Tyrcannel. So there's not any substantial concerns about it, but it's about protecting the amenity belt and braces effectively. Parking and access, there's no issues. It is a large site, provides 3 parking spaces. There's no unacceptable impact in that regard. And similarly, no other issues in terms of biodiversity, noting that there is bird boxes will be provided as biodiversity enhancement, which are sought to be achieved on all applications. The concerns have been noted about issues of contaminated land and coal mining legacy, and these are addressed within the report. There's no issues or objections raised in terms of contaminated land, subject to certain conditions. And in terms of coal mining legacy, it is a low risk coal mining area. I know there's concern locally that it is an area of historical issues, and there have been issues in the area, but it is a low risk area, and therefore we only need to notify the coal authority in areas of high risk. Nevertheless, a suitably worded informative will be attached in respect to potential coal mining legacies, which is how we would deal with such matters. And there's a need, obviously, for the applicant to ensure that when they're constructing property, that there are no unacceptable impacts in that regard. And that's the similar kind of approach that was on the property to the south, the flats to the south, which was on a slightly more complex area, but still not an area of any particular concern that couldn't be controlled. Finally, the other matters raised within the report seek to effectively respond to matters raised by neighbour notifications, etc. I won't go into significant detail on them, only to say that I think some of the concerns relate to historical issues about the ownership of the site and covenants imposed by the council on sales of land, etc. All of those matters are not relevant material planning considerations. All we're here to do today is to assess an application on land that is in the ownership of the applicant who seeks to build a dwelling. If planning permission is granted, if there are any other matters related to legal covenants or other issues associated with that, then those are matters outside of the planning process. And therefore, any concerns about what may or may not have happened, what should or should not have happened, or why other people may not have been able to progress proposals before, are not matters that we can consider today because they're not material to determination of this application. And similarly, matters related to loss of views and the like are not material planning considerations. So having regard to that, the recommendation is to approve subject to conditions. And I emphasise that wording because Councillor Walcock has noted to me, and I with thanks, that it actually says recommendation approved, which actually
yes.
which is a typo in many respects. So it has not been approved, obviously, until members were minded to do so. But the recommendation is to approve subject to the conditions within the report. And I trust that concludes my presentation, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Yes, I was going to come to that when we came to the recommendations and point out that there was a typo there, that it hasn't actually been approved yet. Thank you. Okay, I will ask members of the committee now if they have any questions for any officers. Councillor Steve Hunt, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think the report has gone into detail and is self-explanatory. I certainly support the recommendation and the work the officers have put in once more in making sure that it meets all our planning policies here in Neath, Talbot and our LDP. Just a quick couple of queries with regards to what Mr. Ball has mentioned. He mentioned low risk with mining. Did a mining assessment have to be carried out? Because I'm aware that even if there is low risk, sometimes you have to have a report before commencing any footings or digging or any of that nature. Because it happened recently in St Sisters with the park, and that had to be completed before any work commenced. And another quick one as well, with regards to this site, is in the ownership of the individual. Obviously, there's no street scene to be looked at here, of course, because they're their own identity. They're making their own sort of what to call it. But could it be classed as its own garden? Because it's all in the ownership of the one applicant. What I'm referring to there, it's just a bit of guidance that when applications come in for people who have their own land, maybe not quite as big, then these applications are sometimes not placed for approval. So I just wanted to have an understanding of if this isn't the garden situation, or a better explanation of why some can be passed and some can't be passed. Is it to do with size? Is it to do with the distance between dwellings? I just a bit, Chair, if you know what I mean. Just from Mr. Ball on those 2 points. But as I said, I'm fully supporting the proposal. I think it's self-explanatory, and it's the officers have gone into the work that needed to be done. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Hunt. Yes, 2 questions, and Mr. Ball, did it require the mining assessment? And could you give a brief explanation about why this one was passed and other ones haven't been? I know we deal with each application on its own merits. I'm going to say that beforehand.
Oh, I thought I'd let you use those words. I'm sure I was going to use them if necessary. But it's a difficult one, Councillor Hunt, because, I mean, generally speaking, we do have to assess every application. In terms of whether or not it's garden, in a circumstance like this, doesn't actually make any difference at all, irrespective of whether it's their garden as it is now or if it's just a vacant plot of land. The assessment is the same. The assessment is, can a dwelling such as this be accommodated on this site in an acceptable way without having unacceptable impacts? And that's where we consider the relationship, both in terms of site levels, in terms of relationship with how it appears in the street scene, and particular relationship with all the adjoining properties, to make sure there's no unacceptable impacts, for example, from an over dominant property or overlooking or loss of privacy, those kind of things. So whether or not it's garden doesn't make a lot of difference. It can make a difference in certain circumstances, but again, it depends on the proposal. So ultimately, it's difficult to give comment on that, and what you will have, as you rightly said, is every time we present an application to committee or any report we write in general, we'll always assess that what are the material planning considerations and come to a conclusion in that regard. Things like curtilage and garden can be of relevance in the countryside in particular, but that in itself wouldn't necessarily just because it was garden, it wouldn't justify a new dwelling in the countryside, for example, because it would still be a new dwelling in the countryside, even if it was within a residential plot. I hope that clarifies in some respect, even though it's difficult to give any greater degree of certainty than that. And in terms of the coal mining risk assessment, there's only a requirement under planning to submit a coal mining risk assessment for an application like this if it's in the high coal risk area, and it's not. That doesn't negate the fact that any reasonable developer will obviously seek to ensure that they undertake their own due diligence in making sure that that there are any issues at the site can be accommodated, and it would be reasonable for them to do so. But for the planning purpose, there is no policy objection or issue of concern about locating a detached property on this site. Hope that helps.
Are you comfortable with those answers, Councillor Hunt?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to ask a question on this item or comment? I see none. Okay, in that respects then, I will take you to page 16, where the recommendation is, as a typo error, it's to approve, not it has been approved, with the conditions set out. So some are time limited, some are pre-commencement, and some are action conditions. So there's quite a few conditions, but the recommendation is to approve with conditions. Do I have a proposer, please?
I move recommendation.
So that was Councillor Keogh. Who else? Councillor Wilcock, I believe I heard. Yes.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Okay,
Chair.
thank you very much. Tammy, would you just go through the roll call and ask each member which way they intend to vote, please?
Yes, certainly.
And as I say, it's been a short meeting, but normally we would say, and they've been present for the whole item as well.
Yes, no worries, Chair. I'll start with yourself. So how do you vote, and were you present for the whole item?
Yes, I'm present for the whole item and I will vote to approve.
Thank you, Councillor. Vice Chair, Councillor Sean Percy, same questions, please.
Yeah, I've been present for the whole item and I'll be voting for the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis Keogh.
I've been present for the entire meeting, Tammy, and I'll be voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Ros Davis, please.
I've been here for the whole meeting and I'm for the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Steve Hunt.
Yes, Tammy, I've been here for the whole item and I'll be supporting the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Arwyn Wilcock, please.
Yes, Chair, I confirm that I've been present for the whole agenda item and I'm voting in favour of the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Williams, please.
Thank you, Chair. I confirm that I've been present for the whole agenda item and I approve the application.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Stephanie Lynch, please.
I confirm that I've been here for the whole item and I sorry.
You can vote for the recommendation.
Yeah, vote for the recommendation. I think I got a bit nervous.
No, don't worry, Stephanie, first time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Chair can confirm that application has been
Chair,
approved.
I haven't been called.
Who have I got there? Councillor Mark
Prothero.
Yeah. Councillor Prothero, I'm very sorry.
No worries,
have you been
okay.
present for the whole meeting and how do you vote?
I have indeed been present, thanks Tammy, and I will be voting for the recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry about that.
Okay. Sorry about that, Councillor Prothero.
Chair, that is unanimous.
Thank you. So that item has been approved. Thank you, councillors. Item 5 is urgent items. I have no urgent items, so I'll thank you all for your attention and call the meeting to a close. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Chair.
Bye.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
There we are.
And then
Short
there were two.
sweet today, Steve? So
Yep, indeed. Well, over and done within half an hour, so that's good.
Great. I'm going to try and get into my meeting now, the conference. Wish me luck.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had anything on that from them at all, so I'm not sure anything about it. But I think so one of my officers was in it, so I'm wondering whether I might be able to get a link from him.
Well, I had an email saying this is your link, and I pressed on the link because I asked them this morning, and so they've obviously sent me something. But then it said you need to verify it with what was in the email, and I couldn't find the second one to verify. So I'll have it now.
Okay.
So there was one says press this to start the process, and then it said an email has been sent to you with a link or an authentication code, and I couldn't find that. So I'll have a look.
Okie dokie. Well, fingers crossed you sort it out.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
All right, you take care.
Ta-da.
Bye.